6 years ago, my sister Att cked me and took my boyfriend. Now, my parents. My own sister didn't just betray me. She brutally attacked me and stole the love of my life. 6 years later, my parents forced us together at my bridal shower, triggering a confrontation that tore our family apart. Looking back, our parents never truly understood the toxic brew of envy they allowed to simmer between my sister, who's 26, and me, 28. They actually encouraged us to compete, turning our childhood into a constant battleground. It wasn't smart, not smart at all, because it bred a deep, unhealthy resentment. Maybe, just maybe, if they'd addressed it sooner, our relationship wouldn't have become this festering wound. As kids, we could occasionally put our differences aside, but with every passing year, our animosity grew. By high school, we barely spoke, and honestly, we preferred it that way. When I left for college, the distance felt like a relief, a reprieve from the constant tension. Then my life started to feel perfect. Around the time of my graduation, my amazing boyfriend, now my fiancé, finally worked up the courage to ask me out. We'd been friends for 3 years, and I'd always thought he was incredible too, so of course I said yes. It didn't feel like a huge deal then, just a natural progression. After graduation, I moved in with him. 3 months into our relationship, I decided it was time to introduce him to my parents, so I brought him home for supper one weekend. And of course, my sister, who had just started college, decided to come home that very same weekend. It was a formula for disaster, waiting to explode. My life was going great, a wonderful boyfriend, a burgeoning career, my own apartment. My sister, on the other hand, was not doing so well. She'd failed to get into her first-choice college and had to settle. Later, my parents told me she was struggling to make friends, which explained why she was home so often. The moment I introduced my boyfriend to my parents, I could feel my sister's displeasure. She stood in the background, pouting. My partner knew about our strained relationship, but I introduced them anyway. She instantly turned on her charm, and a wave of unease washed over me. It seemed strange, but I tried to ignore it. Then things got truly bizarre. My sister kept trying to engage my boyfriend in conversation, asking all about his life. We were both frightened, but remained silent, unsure how to react. Then she crossed a line. She started openly, shamelessly flirting with him right in front of me throughout dinner. She wasn't even subtle about it. It was a brazen, sickening display, clearly designed to annoy me. I wanted to keep the peace, to prevent my boyfriend from seeing just how dysfunctional my family was, so I bit my tongue for as long as I could. But I was at my breaking point. This was my partner, my love. A red haze of fury descended. I lost my temper and urged her to stop, telling her it was repulsive, disgusting, the way she was flinging herself at him. She just rolled her eyes and kept talking to him. I snapped, screaming at her, reminding her he was my guest, and she needed to show him some respect because she was making him uncomfortable. That's when my blood ran cold. She retorted that she was only helping my boyfriend realize there were alternatives to me, and that he deserved better. The way she said it, so smug, so cruel, sent me spiraling. We began cursing at each other. I lashed out, calling her a loser, reminding her she wasn't doing as well as I was, accusing her of being resentful. Those words, sharp and bitter, hit her where it hurt. She lunged across the table, grabbed my hair, and slapped me. We hadn't had a physical altercation since middle school, and the sheer shock paralyzed me. But then, as she struck me, it escalated into a full-fledged fight, pure, unadulterated chaos. We were so violent, a blur of pain and anger, that my boyfriend and parents had to physically pull us apart. By the end, we were both scratched and hurt, still yelling at each other. It was my partner who dragged me away, got me into the car, and drove us home, trying to reassure me the entire time. If he hadn't been by my side, that conflict might have lasted much longer. I was grateful to have my anchor in the storm, because I was utterly shattered and shaking. After that episode, my heart hardened. I completely stopped talking to my sister. We'd fought before, but never like this, never so viciously. For me, it was the final straw. Since I was already living apart from her, I must admit, I no longer felt compelled to think of her as family. The day after, my parents called, telling me they'd reprimanded my sister and hoped we could eventually work things out, even though she wasn't prepared to apologize. I told them, unequivocally, that I had no interest in resolving anything. I wanted nothing to do with her anymore. I wanted our relationship to stay awful. They tried to convince me otherwise, but I reminded them they shared some of the responsibility. They had never recognized our fierce sibling rivalry, had even fostered it since we were little. They couldn't be shocked that we didn't want to be together. We argued because they disagreed with me. A few days later, they apologized over the phone, acknowledging their error. It felt a little meaningless at the moment, but I forgave them. Even though I'd already decided not to speak to my sister, I didn't want to sever my ties with my parents. It's been 6 years since that day, and I haven't spoken to my sister since. But as long as they don't pressure me to make amends, I don't mind that my parents and she have a typical relationship. We seldom talk, but I've seen her at family gatherings. Even on holidays, we just avoid each other, and I like it that way. Everyone in the family knows we don't get along, but no one truly understands why. They only know we had a fight, and since neither of us looked good after it, I kept the full story a secret. If this wild ride of family drama has you on the edge of your seat, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, the twists and turns only get more unbelievable from here. But during my bridal shower, I finally revealed the truth. My maid of honor had only invited close relatives and friends, along with my bridesmaids. We weren't adhering to the tradition of just inviting women, so my fiancé was also present. I wanted everyone I cared about to be there. Nevertheless, my parents chose to invite my estranged sister as well. Honestly, I have no idea what they were thinking, but my heart dropped into my stomach when they walked in with her. To my surprise, my sister looked just as shocked to see me. The room went quiet. It felt like a standoff. After what seemed like a lifetime, my parents approached me, speaking to both of us. They declared that a lot had changed in the 6 years following the tragedy. Above all, they expected us to make amends, believing we were older and more mature now. My sister's face made it obvious she'd been duped by them to get her there. Before she could say anything, my voice trembled with suppressed rage as I told my parents they had no right to do this on such a significant day for me. I gently asked them to leave with my sister, but my parents wouldn't go. I tried to maintain my dignity so as not to ruin the occasion, but their audacity knew no bounds. They advised me to move on from the past, making it sound like nothing important had occurred, as though it would be simple for me to let go. Their blatant dismissal infuriated me. So I reenacted the entire episode, the raw, ugly truth, right there for everyone to hear. I wanted to help them remember, and to make sure everyone else knew exactly what had happened 6 years prior. Then I inquired if anyone in the room felt that I could simply let go of this. If I had married someone else, it would have been a different story, but I was marrying the same man with whom my sister had openly flirted when I first brought him home to meet the family. She had shamelessly done it in front of me, treating him as though he were a participant in a tournament that he had never consented to. And above all, she attacked me first after doing all of that, simply because I called her out on her actions and labeled her a loser. I had never had someone attempting to physically harm me in that way before, so it was traumatic for me. Despite everything, she acted as if nothing had happened and never apologized to me in the previous 6 years. I didn't feel obligated to forgive her or move on from the past. I felt it was more vital to cling to the past, and I would never allow someone like her back into my life. My parents' assumption that they could simply bring her to my bridal shower and expect us to comply was absurd. Fortunately, my sister realized her mistake and left before my parents could dispute much further. My mother followed her, presumably to appease her, as I assumed she wasn't pleased about being misled either. My father stayed with me for a short while, but I informed him that since he had disappointed me, I didn't want to talk to him just now. He became irritated, accusing me of being irrational, claiming I was acting like a brat, and that it made no sense to hold on to something that had happened 6 years prior. Although I didn't think I was being a brat, I told him to go since I didn't want to argue with him. He also left after a few minutes. After that, I was so overwhelmed that I had to take a few minutes off to gather myself. Fortunately, my fiancé and maid of honor supported me, and after a little while, I was back to my usual self. Everyone else cooperated, seeing that I needed a diversion and didn't want to think about my sister or dad, and we resumed the celebration as if nothing had happened. After the encounter, my fiancé and I went home. We didn't discuss the situation further. I was okay with the fact that I hadn't heard from my parents since this incident, which occurred roughly 5 days ago. I felt that we should spend some time apart after what they did. Although I didn't anticipate hearing from them right away, they did. And not to offer an apology, but rather to hold me responsible for my sister's predicament. My mother called me this morning on the phone. As soon as I responded, She instructed me to contact my aunt and ensure that she offered my sister the position she had been discussing. I urged my mother to back up since she seemed agitated and panicked, and I didn't know what she was talking about. She went on to explain that my sister had been out of work for roughly 6 months due to layoffs and downsizing at her prior employer. She had to move back in with our parents a few weeks ago after realizing she could no longer afford the rent. She had been searching for a job, but she had not been able to locate one that she liked or that paid enough. My mother had discussed this with my aunt, who was launching a new company. Because my sister had been working in marketing before, my aunt had first chosen to appoint her as head of marketing. However, my aunt stopped replying and eventually revoked the invitation following the bridal shower episode, in which I told her what had transpired 6 years prior. Since I had always been my aunt's favorite, I didn't find it unexpected, and I believed it to be a plausible explanation. When my mother forwarded the message my aunt had sent her to me, my aunt stated in her reply that it was evident my sister had severe anger management problems based on her understanding of the incident I described. My aunt wasn't pleased that she hadn't even offered an apology, not even during the bridal shower. Furthermore, my aunt stated that she had first chosen to hire my sister because she was related, but that she had interviewed a better, more competent applicant for the job a few weeks prior. She would now offer the position to the more competent applicant since she had changed her mind. That seemed totally reasonable to me, and I was genuinely glad my aunt had a change of heart. I informed my mother that I couldn't do anything about it after reading her message because, as someone who has seen the negative effects of nepotism in the job, I didn't want my aunt to be the type of person who makes things worse. Otherwise, my sister would have been employed because of nepotism. The real reason my sister wasn't hired was that it appeared my aunt had discovered someone more suited for the position. Since this was my aunt's business life, and I didn't want to cross any lines, I informed her I wouldn't talk to her in an attempt to destroy my sister's reputation and image in front of the family. My mother began to lose her head and started screaming at me. Since I hadn't discussed the issue in years, she suggested I didn't need to bring it up during my bridal shower, even though I had started the argument by calling my sister a loser, especially knowing it would hit her where it hurt. She thought I purposefully painted her as unstable and nasty in order to garner the family's sympathy and make myself appear to be the nice guy. For the record, I wasn't hiding anything when I recounted the incident. I had stated that I had labeled her a loser prior to her attack. Even yet, I don't believe that calling her derogatory names excused her physical altercation. It was just unjust for my mother to say that I brought up the incident in order to harm my sister's reputation. I blocked my parents and hung up after giving it some thought. I'm not sure if discussing the incident was a wise decision. My mother had said over the phone that I hadn't given my sister a chance despite the fact that she had evolved over the years. That was pretty rude of me, she said, that I brought up my sister's attack on me 6 years ago, which resulted in her losing a job offer. Was I in the wrong? Hi Reddit. Before I discuss the events that followed my initial post, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who took the time to leave a remark. I appreciate your kind words and suggestions very much. Well, let's talk about what transpired after I blocked my parents. My parents were unable to reach me because my sister had been barred for the previous 6 years, so they chose to come see me. They had no other method to get in touch with me. I truly don't have time to handle all of this because I'm getting married in a few weeks. I already have a lot on my plate, since I had just returned from work and my fiancé and I needed to travel right away for a last-minute wedding dress fitting. I told them to leave when they arrived. We were going to go, but they had arrived at the wrong time, and I knew that if we opened the door, they would find a way to continue chatting and irritate me. They didn't go even after I threatened to contact the police. To be honest, I didn't want to call the police, since I thought it would be excessive. Being the type of person who calls the police for everything was not something I wanted to be. We agreed to let them in, give them a cursory hearing, and then leave after speaking with my fiancé. After making up our minds, we invited them inside, opened the door, and ordered them to hurry up because we had other places to be. Fortunately, my folks didn't mince words. They said that my aunt had withdrawn her offer to hire my sister due to my actions at my bridal shower. They insisted that I talk to my aunt and make sure my sister found employment because, in theory, I was at fault. I didn't want to repeat myself because it was the same argument. I informed them that I couldn't do anything about it because I had already spoken to my mother about it over the phone. They knew I was busy and I'm getting married in a few weeks, so it seemed senseless to come to my place and discuss it again. My sister then cut me off. They came for other reasons, she claimed, besides the job offer. I was taken aback by that, as it was our first conversation in 6 years. She went on to tell me that it was really because of her that they were there. She felt compelled to apologize to me. Since I'm still unsure of how I felt at the time, I genuinely don't know what to say to you all. I plainly don't trust her, and I had serious doubts about her intentions. I chose to be direct with her as a result. I questioned if she truly wanted to apologize, or if she was just there to do so because she believed I could help her land the job. I informed her that I couldn't help her. Therefore, there was no use in wasting her breath if it was only about the job. She appeared a little taken aback by my candor, but she was able to explain that she had come to apologize and that our parents were there to discuss the job. It was obvious they hadn't talked about this, because even my parents appeared astonished when I looked at them. My sister, though, seemed unconcerned. She said that she was merely there to apologize and had no interest in the position. Over the previous 6 years, she had given her actions against me a lot of thought, but she had always found a reason not to say sorry. However, she was unable to deny the reality that she had mistreated me after the bridal shower. My fiancé and I were still having a hard time processing everything, but I could tell she was serious based on her tone and conduct. She informed me that she had been resentful of me since she was a child because she felt like she had to compete with me. Since nothing mattered in the real world, she understood that she had wasted her entire youth and adolescence competing with me. She felt bad about it because we could have been friends, especially because I had made multiple attempts to be her buddy. She acknowledged that she had pushed me away because she always thought of me as a rival. I had felt the same way, so hearing her utter all of it was crazy. I'm embarrassed to say that as she related her story, I began to cry. After that, she spoke to my fiancé and expressed regret for the way she had treated him during their one and only encounter. She acknowledged that the apology was long overdue and that she had been so preoccupied with defeating me that she had failed to recognize the type of person she had become. She didn't wait for our response once she was done. She merely stated that we didn't have to pardon her. She only wanted to let it out, and now that she had, she would stop bothering us. My parents, my fiancé, and I were the only people left in the room when she left. Since none of us had anticipated it, we were all sitting in awe, trying to comprehend what had just transpired. My fiancé and I went out for my fitting after my parents eventually left without a word. We didn't talk about any of it until we got home. We only began discussing my sister's remarks approximately 30 minutes ago. Even though it took her 6 years, I felt that her apology was extraordinarily mature. She meant every word based on her actions. My fiancé and I are currently debating whether or not to forgive her. Since we haven't even finished processing it, it's too soon to tell. We're tempted to get in touch with her later and express our forgiveness. I need more time before I can reassure her that everything is fine, even though I've already unblocked her. Even though it took her many years to realize we could have been friends, that is something I'm truly happy about. Hello. I just realized that in my previous update, I neglected to express what I intended to do with relation to my parents. To be honest, I forgot about it because I was so preoccupied with my sister's predicament. In any case, my folks haven't gotten in touch with us since our previous visit a few days ago. We're going to keep avoiding them because I don't think they're sorry for anything. The way my sister and I ended up together is one of the many things I hold my parents responsible for. They still had the opportunity to be better parents, but they blew it. They have consistently made it all but impossible for me to maintain them in my life despite my best efforts. We've fought and argued a lot over the last 6 years, and I've always tried to forgive them, but I'm at a loss now. People who obviously don't care about my feelings, or even my sisters if I'm being honest, can't continue to be excused. In the end, we won't communicate with them, and I doubt they'll come to my wedding. However, my fiancé and I want to get in touch with them in a few days to inform them that they are no longer invited at the wedding, just to be safe. Hello everyone. Last week I got married. Everything was lovely and fantastic, exactly as I had envisioned, and I had a great time. My parents were not present, as was to be expected. My spouse and I didn't even have to make contact with them. They informed me via email that there had been a huge mistake and that they would not be attending. They said my sister and I had begun to demonize them, and that they didn't need to be reminded that we blamed them for the tense relationship. They said that despite their best efforts to be excellent parents to us, They now intend to take some time off and live their separate lives without worrying about their daughters because we don't value their presence in our lives. I mean, if that's what they want, I'm okay with it. Happier news. A few days after I published my most recent update, I contacted my sister. I told her that I would love for her to attend my wedding and that I accepted her apology. It was a very joyful day, and she kindly accepted my invitation and attended the wedding. It's absurd to think that I would have sneered at my parents a few months ago if they had informed me that my sister would attend my wedding instead of them. But now here we are. In any case, I'm glad everything went without a hitch and that I'm at last getting back on track with my sister. This is sufficient for me for the time being, but perhaps my parents will change their minds and apologize to us. Life has never been better, and my husband and I will soon be departing for our honeymoon. This journey was long and painful, but it led me to a place of genuine peace and a new, stronger connection with my sister. My wedding day became a symbol of new beginnings, not just for me and my husband, but for a fractured family trying to heal. I truly believe that some relationships are worth fighting for, and others you just have to let go of to protect your own peace. What about you? Have you ever had to draw a hard line with family, or found unexpected reconciliation where you least expected it? Tell me your stories in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear what you think.